Hi, I'm Martin Rich. I'm the co-founder and executive director of the Future Fit Foundation, and we're here in the Finance Hub at Sustainable Paris 2019. Sustainability in finance is one of those issues that is growing massively. I think it's almost impossible to find an investor or a fund these days that isn't in some way interested in ESG, environmental social governance issues, or trying to link to the SDGs, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So it's very much of the moment as an issue, but I think the pressing question really is how genuine and authentic is the investment, or are investments being used? How is that money being used to really change things in the world? Because if all we're doing is linking what we were already doing to certain metrics and certain goals, well, that hasn't really changed anything. And we know that to achieve the future, we need what we would call a future fit society in terms of achieving the SDGs. Then we need to change the way business operates. We need to change how the socio-economic system really works. Specific takeaways were, firstly, that the current rating and ranking system within ESG doesn't really achieve what it's trying to achieve. Companies, many of them today have expressed frustration at filling in questionnaires and tick boxes that really don't help them, don't give them any feedback. It's all about pushing information in one direction. And at the same time, the investors who've been in the hub have expressed their frustration that the information they're receiving is of very little value to them. They don't really know what to do with it. And several examples were given of companies that on one rating system will be 0% sustainable or nearly 0%, and then on another system, that same company will be 90 to 100% sustainable. Well, what does that tell them? So looking at alternative ways of how do we show which companies are truly embedding sustainability into their core business, are becoming sustainable by the way they do business, are rebuilding society and the environment through their business model, not in spite of, then that's what people are looking for, that's what they want. And obviously as the Future Fit Foundation, we think our benchmark speaks very strongly into that, and we've heard some examples from companies today like Novo Nordisk and Hermes Investment Management and Erstel, how they're using this tool and how it's helping to challenge some of these points. And a lot of the members of the group have come up with some great challenges and questions about how we're doing that well, how we can do it better and move forward. So I think it's been a great dialogue. I think two key moments have really stood out for me today. Firstly, when we heard Emmanuel speaking this morning, the CEO of Danone, about how do we make change, and what boldness is a key thing for these companies. And then Erin from Interface also said how Ray had been incredibly bold when he started that change in Interface. And then in our very first session today, the first two companies who stood up and talked, particularly Erstel, was talking about how bold they were. So this concept of actually needing to stand up and say, we're going to do things differently, boldly, really came out. The second key moment for me was when somebody quoted Warren Buffett from Berkshire Hathaway, and how, when looking at the failings at the moment at Kraft, and how they've put out a profit warning, and how the share price has tumbled massively from when that conglomerate came together. He's been making comments apparently about they spent too long looking at cost cutting and how they just would produce this ultra efficient vehicle, but by what we would consider to be quite old school methods. And you think somebody like that, who is held up as being, the greatest investor of recent times, and perhaps rightly so, if a man like that is beginning to question whether these old methods of doing business and investment are correct, and realizing that actually they're not working, then that for me is a really encouraging sign. It doesn't say that he or others have got sustainability yet, but they're beginning to realize the old is broken, which means they will start to look for what is the new and the working.